What's up guys, this is Jeff from Sorta Healthy, and today we are back to talking more about programming for personal trainers. The programming that we go over today can be used for online or virtual personal training sessions, but I actually use it mostly for in-person personal training sessions. So obviously if you're a personal trainer or a health and fitness professional, today's video is going to be especially useful for you. But even if you're not a personal trainer or health and fitness professional, the information that we go over today will be useful to anybody who's just interested in creating a well-rounded fitness routine. Essentially what I'll be teaching you today is how to create the perfect personal training session. You may be thinking that there are multiple right ways to create or structure a personal training session. I would argue though that there is really only one optimal approach for you to take. Alright, so let's not waste any time here, let's get right into it. Essentially there are 5 steps to creating the perfect personal training session. And the first step happens before your client ever sets foot inside your facility and does a full session with you. Step 1 is to know your client. Know their goals, know their strengths, know their weaknesses. If I don't know what they're hiring me to help them accomplish, then it doesn't really matter if I'm the best fitness programmer in the world. Without that goal that we're both chasing after, their results are always going to be less than what they could be. So be crystal clear on what the client's goals are before you do anything else. I also need to know where my client is capable and where they're not capable. Doing an assessment before we ever do a full personal training session should give me all the information I need to intelligently design workouts for my client. A link to my in-person personal training assessment is up above my head right now. So if you want to see how I do an assessment with a client that I'm working with in person, make sure to click that link or maybe check it out after you're done watching this video. And appearing up above my head in a few seconds here will be a link to the assessment that I use with my online or virtual personal training clients. This assessment is a little bit simpler than my in-person personal training assessment, but it's still very effective at assessing a client's strengths and weaknesses, and it will show that client good progression over every 6-week phase change. Both of these 2 assessments do what assessments are supposed to do, and they encourage my clients to keep on getting better results, and of course, to keep training with me. And I think we can all agree that's a win-win. The forms that I use for both of these 2 different assessments, as well as my guide to creating the perfect personal training session, can all be found to download for free in the video description. All I ask for in return, guys, is a like on the video and subscribing to the channel because it helps the channel to grow and allows me to keep making content to help other personal trainers. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed and supported the channel so far. Let's keep this train moving forward and make the personal training industry a better one. Step number 2 in creating a perfect personal training session is creating a proper dynamic warm-up. According to ACE, which is one of the top certifying agencies in personal training, also called movement prep, dynamic warm-ups consist of integrated movements that can improve muscular strength, mobility, stability, and balance, coordination, agility, or even power. Warm-ups can include foam rolling, balance exercises, yoga-type movements, agility drills, and even plyometric drills. So a dynamic warm-up should accomplish 2 things. The first is just to prepare the body for the workout that is yet to come. If I'm going to be doing barbell squats in my workout, well, maybe some body weight squats would be a great way to prepare my body for those barbell squats. If I'm going to be deadlifting in my upcoming workout, maybe doing a few toe touches would be a suitable move. The list goes on for possible warm-up exercises that would be suitable for different exercises, but I think you probably have a pretty good idea what I'm talking about. The other good thing that you can accomplish within a dynamic warm-up, and this is the more complicated one, is correcting different imbalances. We all have physical imbalances, none of us are perfect. Maybe your hamstrings are too tight relative to your quads and hip flexors. Maybe your glute muscles don't activate as much as they should during a squat. Maybe you round forward too much throughout the day, causing an imbalance between the anterior and the posterior muscles in your body. The list goes on here too, but again, we all have imbalances, and oftentimes the warm-up of our workout is not a bad time to work on those imbalances a little bit. So let's say my thoracic mobility is compromised because I'm rounding forward too much throughout the day. A good warm-up for me could be thoracic foam rolling and some door frame stretches, and maybe by doing these 2 stretches right before my workout, I could at least improve my ability temporarily to maintain a flat back during, say, a squat. And honestly, guys, the possibilities here are endless. You can string together a whole bunch of these different dynamic exercises. You just need to keep them quick, not like ballistic quick.
Seriously, guys, no spastic movements like the one you're seeing on the screen right now. Hip swings are fine, but doing them this aggressively would be bad for most people.
That's no good, don't do those. And you have to keep them relevant to your workout. And like we said before, use that time to try and work on some of your clients' imbalances. Okay, so after the dynamic warm-up, the next thing we go to are the compound lifts. Squats, deadlifts, bench press, rows. These are some examples of compound lifts, and of course there are many more. And these exercises should make up the bulk of almost all of your clients' workouts. These exercises involve multiple joints and multiple muscles and give you the most bang for your buck. Typically, they're also going to be more complicated than single joint accessory movements. This is another reason to do these kinds of exercises early on before your client is too fatigued. If the compound movements in my client's workout today are squats, bench press, and rows, I might decide to start my client off with some squats, but I probably wouldn't start them off with their working weight if they're working heavy at all. I would probably do a warm-up set or two with lighter weights, and after those warm-up sets, I would then take them through all of their working sets. Then I would do the same thing with bench press, and if we're doing heavy rows, I would do the same thing with rows as well. But anyway, you get the point. I'm doing all of those compound movements before I do anything else. All right, so all of my compound movements are now done. Now I move on to the accessory movements. Tricep extensions, bicep curls, leg extensions. Single jointed, less complicated movements go here in the workout. These exercises are typically much simpler and don't require as much technique. I also want to mention again that the majority of your exercises should be compound movements. Let's say I'm doing 9 exercises with my client. In most cases, I will want at least 5 of those exercises to be compound movements. Exceptions to this rule do exist. For example, if a client has a very specific goal where they would benefit more from doing less compound movements and maybe more accessory movements, that is a different story, but those clients are few and far between. Many core exercises would also be considered accessory movements. I will typically do almost all of my core exercises with my client right at the end of the workout. Not only do the workouts tend to flow nicely if you do it this way, but a few core exercises at the end of the workout can actually serve as a very nice active cool down as well. In this active cool down, you're still working, you're just not working quite as hard as you were during other parts of the workout. This allows your heart rate to gradually come down, and of course that is what you want. The last section of my perfect personal training session is static stretching, and I typically reserve about 3 to 5 minutes for this part. We stretch out muscles that are either sore from the workout itself, or maybe the client has soreness from something else, or maybe the client has soreness just from their everyday life. Whatever the case may be, this is a good time to work on some of those things. This is another good time to work on some of those physical imbalances that we talked about earlier. Now, if I'm working with a client in person, what I will typically do is partner-assisted stretching. I won't lie to you guys, before Rona, this is pretty much all I did with clients in person. Post-Rona, I still do this often with my in-person clients, but if they're not comfortable with that, I'll just take them through a stretching routine that I guide them through. And essentially, this is the exact same thing that I do with my virtual clients as well. I just guide them through a little stretching routine at the end of the workout. Again, the stretches that I choose are directly dependent on what we did in the actual workout and what that client's goals are. It's also affected by little imbalances that my client will definitely have going on. So there is a purpose behind every stretch that we're doing, and the clients definitely do pick up on this. And there you have it, guys, the 5 steps to creating a perfect personal training session. If you follow these 5 steps with your clients, whether you're working with them in person or virtually, there's really no way that you won't end up with a good personal training session. So if you're a new trainer, be confident, follow these 5 steps, and you'll be fine. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because of course it does help the channel. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back very soon with more helpful content.